All right, so let's get into a demo of Secure Access Cloud. And again, one of the big value propositions that we make is just the speed to value that we can provide with this product, because it is agentless, because it is cloud delivered, because it is a service. When someone compares this to the lifting that it takes for them to manage their VPN, again, sometimes they think this is almost too good to be true, but I can prove with this that it's not. A lot of times I'll even go into the demo and tell somebody I can have this, basically what I'm about to do done in under 5 minutes, and feel free to, pull out your phone and time me. We're that confident in it. So what I have here for the demo is just a Linux server that I'm hosting in Amazon Lightsail. You can see it's based in Frankfurt, and I'm actually sitting in the Mountain View HQ, just to give you an idea of what you'll be seeing here. All this has is just like a corporate wiki on it, a simple web application, a knowledge management portal. And right now, the only way into this machine over the internet is over SSH for management, which I'll be using in a moment, but I'll be able to close this to follow up on our promise of isolating this machine completely from the internet in a moment during the demo. So my goal for the demo is to, from scratch, provide access to this machine to users within our company, and again, to do it in under 5 minutes following 3 steps. So without further ado, here's how we do it. So this is the Secure Access Cloud, well, still branded Luminate admin UI here. And there's really 3 things that we can do in order to provide access to this application. The first thing that we do is we define what we call a site. All a site is just a logical bucket where somebody might be hosting applications. So in this case, it could be a data center or a VPC. I'll just call it AWS Lightsail Frankfurt, for example. So I'm just telling Secure Access Cloud, hey, here's a place where I happen to be hosting applications. Great. Step 1's done. Step 2 is I have to tell Secure Access Cloud what type of connector deployment that I'm going to be choosing. So our connector can run serverless. It could run on Kubernetes, Windows. In this case, it's simply a Linux deployment. So I'm going to choose that. And I'll hit save. And when I do, I get a copy paste command that I can use to pull the image of our connector, the Secure Access Cloud connector, from the Docker repository. And I'm going to run it here on that machine that I'm logged into on. I'm going to run it here on the machine in Lightsail that I'm connected to right now using my terminal. And now that I've run that command, step 2 is also complete. We're actually done deploying the connector. So what the connector is automatically going to do is reach out to our nearest point of delivery for Secure Access Cloud and make sure that it can connect and represent this site that the company has defined. We can see here that's already online. So what that means is we've already created a site for this customer that can provide access to applications. This is the equivalent, just to give the customer an idea, that's the equivalent of them deploying a VPN gateway, managing the routing table, issuing the certificates, deploying the agents on the endpoints, et cetera, et cetera. So this is why sometimes people say there's no way it could be that easy. The final thing that we do, once that's set up, is we define our actual application that we want users to access. This works for a number of protocols, as I mentioned. In this case, it happens to be a simple web app. I'm going to call it the corporate wiki, for example. I could create an icon here if I wanted to with a logo. Then the second to last thing I have to do is tell the connector how it's going to find this application internally. So the connector itself needs access to the internal IP or the internal DNS of the resource that it's going to represent. In this case, the connector happens to be on the same machine as the application itself. It doesn't have to be that way. And the last thing that I want to do is say who gets to access this application. So again, in the spirit of zero trust, we're starting out with no one being able to access this. But what you can see here is we're integrated with the corporate identity provider, which in this case happens to be Okta. From there, I can actually query based on groups, based on certain users, and add them to be able to access this application. So for example, I've already assigned myself access, and now I've given our R&D group as well as sales access to the corporate wiki. These are Okta groups that are auto-populating. Once I do that, I'm done. I've now done everything that it takes in order to set up connectivity to an application via Secure Access Cloud. Again, you could imagine if I wasn't talking through it, the short amount of time that would have taken. And now that we see that it's been created successfully, we have confirmed that my users that have been assigned this application can now access the wiki. So here's what I'll do then. After that, when I show the demo, I'll say, just to prove it to you, now that this access has been set up, I'll now close the final open port that's on the firewall here. So now this machine is effectively disappeared from the public internet. There is no way that you can find it unless you're going through the approved service, which of course is Secure Access Cloud. I could even detach its public IP if I really wanted to. So then what I show is the user experience. Now that this is set up, it's disappeared from the internet, how does my user actually access it? There's two ways that they could do it. They could go directly to the link itself, just as they used to, or we can give them a portal similar to the VIP portal. I think it's actually integrated now with the VIP portal for VIP customers, where we give a user a set of icons. And the important thing to note here is the only icons that I see are applications that I have been given access to by the security team. So I don't see everything here as as an information user or someone in sales. I only see what I need to do my job. I have no way of accessing anything else. That's, again, important for Zero Trust. I click on the corporate wiki, and as a user, I'm in. Again, there's no way I could find this over the internet. I'm doing it the only approved way. And just to prove it to customers, a lot of times what I'll say is, if you on your browser, I don't know what machine you're on, I don't know what network you're on, but if you go to this URL up here, you will actually be prompted to log in with our organizational Okta, which shows you, how easy and quick this is to set up secure access. So now as a user, I decide I'd like to get a little curious. I go to the business plan for 2019, and I'd really like to download, all of our files here. I'd also love to take a look at what we're planning for our board of directors meeting. And while I'm doing that, if we go back over to the management console, this is really one of the powerful things. The visibility I mentioned is our biggest differentiator that we have over this user session. So here we have the access logs, and here is, for example, one of my downloads. You could see, here's me downloading the attachment for the business plan document, what browser I'm using, where I am, et cetera, et cetera. And you could see all the different fields over here that we can query by. The integrations are coming that you might assume are obvious. Integrations with the threat intelligence network, integrations with DLP, integrations with SEP. You can imagine the policy engine and the number of things that you can do by collecting this data that customers right now have no prayer of doing using their current VPN solutions or even some of the competitive SDP solutions that are on the market. Of course, we can take this a step further if we really wanted to. We don't just audit this, and we don't just give somebody this information. We actually allow them to define policies. And this, again, it will be where a lot of the integrations come. But right now, I have a simple one that I would have triggered by what I just did. And it says, hey, this is a policy for somebody who's trying to download a lot of files. Anyone wants to download 5 files in less than 3 minutes, we could block the user, disconnect them, alert one of the other tools in the semantic portfolio, send something to a SIM, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. So this granular governance, as well as the speed to value, the speed to security, whatever you want to call it, these two things together really seem to open people's minds to the capabilities here. And it's definitely capabilities that they don't currently have today with the solutions they're using. Thank you for watching the Illuminate demo. Happy selling.